Hi, I'm Don. Welcome to my studio.
This channel is supported by all these awesome brands. Today we do value sketching with the airbrush with Cuttlefish Colors for the first time. We will do zenithal underpainting value sketching with a handful of gamma miniatures. We are using my beautiful black and white Infinity Cave Infinity by Harder and Steenbeck. Lastly, we'll use Merlin's Magic Medium to thin down the paints for airbrushing as instructed by Ryan, the chemist at Cephalopod Studios, the makers of Cuttlefish Colors. This actually feels weird already because we're thinning down the paints with the medium, which is Merlin's Magic Medium. But this was the instruction of Ryan from the maker of Cuttlefish Colors. So it's kind of weird that you're using medium to thin down the paints, but it's also, other than being amusing, it's kind of like fresh. It's new to me. I'm used to using flow improver and thinner or even water and flow improver, but never mediums. Which makes the Merlin's Magic Medium extra special. I mean, imagine thinning down the paints with the same medium that you use for brush painting. So it's kind of weird, but it's crazy good. Makes the Merlin's Medium so versatile. Oh, don't get me started with using water to thin down your paints for airbrushing, because even Vallejos, I prefer using at the very least flow improver plus water if you're like in a budget or something, to make sure that you have flawless painting and smooth finishes. Because especially if you're painting an army or a huge model, if you're just using water, for sure your airbrush will clog. Using just water for airbrushing is a marketing bull because people will find like the paints, wow, this is economical and you just need water to paint it really nicely on a model or for airbrushing. So it's sort of a marketing bull, but to really make sure that you have flawless painting, especially with the airbrush, you need the thinner and flow improver for Vallejos. And then for this one, apparently you just need the same medium, which is Merlin's Magic Medium. Merlin's Magic Medium, much like the combination of flow improver and thinner, dissolves the paints better, smoother, and it gives additional flow, and of course it retards the drying time that will help prevent tip drying. What really surprised me with the airbrushing of these paints is that these paints are pre-glazed paints, so meaning they are semi-transparent. But apparently, they are a bit thick. They are thinner than model colors, which are incredibly thick, but they are thicker than air paints. So since these paints are thicker than airbrush paints, you have to thin it down a little bit. I think my ratio was around 2 parts paint and 1 part Merlin's medium. The great thing about using Merlin's medium for thinning down the paints for airbrushing is that it's kinda difficult to over thin the paints because again, you're using medium. However, if you do over thin, you added a bit more Merlin's medium than needed, you will have semi-transparent paints, meaning it's not really as runny if you're just using water. So over thin paints with Merlin's medium will produce semi-transparent paints obviously and will make you do like a couple of thin coats, but at this point I'm just painting with one thin coat and I really like the coverage so far. Also, I noticed that the paints kinda dry a bit slower than usual, which is great. It means that it won't clog your airbrush and of course you will produce a finer, smoother finish because acrylic paints As they dry, they kinda level down, and thus you will produce a really nice smooth finish. Now we airbrush 51st shade. This is lighter but a bit similar to ivory. You have to shake really light colored paints well, and then it's a bit thick, but make sure not to over thin them. So you have to thin this color really well. As you can see, I'm mixing it really nicely, and then when you put it on the sides of the bottle, it should flow down but stick to the bottle or glass bottle at the same time. Now it's ready for airbrushing. Unlike the previous paints, I would recommend you paint this in 2 thin coats rather than just 1 heavy coat, because you have the tendency to make this runny or run all over the model because it's a light colored paint. However, you could see in the video that it's covering really nicely with just 1 coat. I will say it, 51st shade is even better than Liquitex white ink, and of course way better than all Vallejo white paints. However, I ran out of 51st shade mixture on the glass bottle, the mixer or the jigger, and then I added a bit of White Night, which is the white paint from Cuttlefish Colors. White Night, as expected, is a bit like you produce a bit more speckles. It's less smooth than 51st shade, but in comparison to Liquitex ink, it's still a bit smoother, or at par with Liquitex white ink. So the only advantage of Liquitex white ink over 51st shade is not the finish, because I produce a better finish with 51st shade, but it's ready to paint with the airbrush straight from the bottle. At this point of the video, I'm so used to airbrushing these paints already with the airbrush. Now it's time to thank all my awesome patrons, my bronze and silver patrons, and of course my higher tier gold level patrons. These guys are awesome. And of course my higher level tier, which are my platinum level patrons. These guys are crazy generous, and the duo of Marco Colucci and Matt Adamo. Without the support of these guys, there will be no YouTube channel. Now obviously, airbrushing Cuttlefish Colors worked like a charm. I did not test it with just water because I'm not a water painter. I don't like painting with just water. Water is great for cleaning your airbrush and cleaning your brushes. But with this one, I cleaned the airbrush with glass cleaner, which is very cost effective because glass cleaners are way cheaper than the airbrush cleaners that are branded. Just make sure to use ammonia-free glass cleaners. So this paints airbrush so well. Now I have a problem. I need more paints. That's it, Pansit.